Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 1-minute segments and then examine it in obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco. And Kyle.
Yes, sir.
You know, any of us who have ever been a baby, which I think is...
as many of us have.
Many of us have been babies. Or any of us who has ever had to create a solar system model for our elementary science class is familiar with a particular type of art. And that type of art is the kinetic sculpture. All right, kinetic art, it's a form or a medium that contains movement perceivable by the viewer or depends on motion for its effect. Thank you, Wikipedia. I bring this up because there's a piece of kinetic art that takes up the whole frame in most of this minute. Interesting. Anyway, I digress.
That's right. Because it's all about distraction here in minute 78 of Iron Man 2 from 2010, directed Jon Favreau. And so we pick up where we left off, which is there's some news reporter thing that's going on that's
still going on.
Being cruel to Pepper, and Tony is then taking the time as she's finishing up her telephone call to look around the room, so that you see that all of the stuff that was his, because we actually never really saw this office as Tony Stark's. Like when we saw it in Iron Man 1, Obadiah had taken over. And then now here it is, Pepper has taken over and made it her own. So now all of Tony's stuff is piled in a corner under a bunch of sheets, which is a very interesting development for our hero of this. So as we're going through, we can see he's looking through the boxes. We see the Fortune magazine that was not only from the montage in Iron Man 1, but also hanging up on the wall, the crazy wall of Ivan in Russia. That was one of the things that he had pinned up to his wall of his hate wall. He's going through stuff. We see then Tony pulls down a sheet and reveals, it turns out he had the model. So the actual model we've been seeing for the last 5 minutes or so that his father has been shooting his video in front of, and we saw way back at the beginning of the movie during the introduction video that Howard did for the new Stark Expo. Is there. So she actually originally he had the model in his office. Now she hadn't destroyed it. She basically just moved it out of the way. And so we see that because, Rob, do you suppose that's going to be important later on?
Can I go a little deeper on you on that?
Oh, sure.
I think there's even some ridiculously minute foreshadowing on that model. When you see him turn to it, there is a sheet that is obscuring it. The sheet, weirdly, is printed with the Stark Industries logo. And
branding, Rob. It's all about branding.
But the sheet is backwards, and the logo is backwards, telling the viewer that what is under this sheet will bring on new meaning when its perspective is changed. I don't know.
Wow. Will it help us solve the riddle of his heart?
Oh, yes! Okay. Again, things you never notice until you're doing what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah. What happened there? You went through the trouble of printing the logo on a sheet, and then you didn't put the sheet on correctly on the model.
So,
what happened?
There are all sorts of cameras pointed at this thing, so you had to notice it. So I would think it would have to have been intentional.
Yes, it had to have been. How do you miss that? Or, because it's not flipped. I mean, clearly you have the magazines and everything else. What's going on there? Because, spoiler, for this minute and for the next few minutes, I believe there are multitudes of continuity errors
interesting.
In this whole sequence.
Okay.
I'm not saying this is a continuity error, but I still just don't understand that. Why did you put it on backwards on the stuff? And then you can see also in the boxes too, there's also, I think the Forbes magazine that we saw earlier, that's there as well.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of junk. Maybe it looks like one of his awards that he clearly decides to discard.
Doesn't care much about. Yeah.
Oh, of course, though, it's in his office. Haha. So that's kind of amusing. just the sheet thing just got me. Like, what the heck?
So we see there's a piece of art hanging on the wall. We don't know if this belonged to Tony or belongs to Pepper, but it was interesting because we actually managed to figure out what it was. So on the wall above where all of his stuff is, there's a sort of like a ruined looking bridge. So we managed to figure out that this is a actual real art photograph. I mean, like there's, so people sometimes there are people who just take pictures of stuff, and there's some people who take like artistic photographs of it. And so this is one of the latter. This is actually a piece by Mr. Elger Esser. He is a German landscape photographer from Dusseldorf.
Hey.
He's primarily associated with large format images of European lowlands with his characteristic low horizon lines, pale luminous colors, and vast skies, which are all on display at the image we see back here, which is called Tone, or possibly Tone 1?
Yeah.
France.
Right.
It's from 1997. So this actually we managed to do some Google image researching and discovered where it was.
Now, that's interesting because as we were joking before, as we were doing the research on this, he's kind of like the German Ansel Adams,
right?
American photographer who did all this. The 90s, you couldn't walk through a Target without seeing Ansel Adams' framed work, right? Like,
true, very true.
The 90s were just this stark landscape mode, apparently, in
no pun intended,
artistic photography. Jeez. Oh boy. Yeah. There we go.
So then, as they're walking along, then Pepper is continuing her conversation with Burt, who we assume is one of Stark lawyers,
or Burt from Sesame Street. Either one.
Possible. It's very possible. She says, "No, Burt, listen to me. Don't tell me that we have the best patent lawyers in the country, and then not let me pursue this." And then, so as Tony is still like looking at all of his stuff, going, "I'll get this stuff out of here." And Pepper sort of just waves him off like, yeah, whatever. So she says, "Well, then tell the president to sign an order. We'll talk about that at the expo." Like, president, oh, that's a capital P. That's like the president, like probably President Ellis.
Oh, yeah. And Burt must be like the chief of staff or somebody important.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to figure out who exactly Burt is by this side of the conversation. I feel like he is the chief counsel for Stark. Because she says,
legal, right?
Because she says, "Don't tell me we have the best patent lawyers in the country and then not let me pursue this." So he's like her chief counsel or whatever, basically saying, "I don't think we should probably take on the federal government in court."
Right.
And she's like, yeah, we're going to." So then as Tony's pulling back the sheet, she says, "Hammer's giving some presentation tomorrow evening." And then she's repeating a question that Bert's asking her. Will Tony Stark be there? Interesting that that happens off camera as well. So this is one of those things that I'm for whatever reason hyper aware of when I watch these movies. Whenever a character delivers a line via the back of their head, I always get suspicious. I'm like, oh, there's some editing they had to do. Like, there's some retconning they had to figure out later on, because when Pepper delivers that, she's delivering it to the wall. Like, we only are seeing the back of her head, and her saying that's ADR. So basically, they put that in after.
That would further the theory that this scene is heavily edited.
Yeah. I think like basically, like, this is setting up the end, and so I think there's a lot of like things that they redid as what it originally was. Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of dot connecting here. Well, and also, we should mention, obviously, when Tony first enters, when he's entered the room now at the beginning of this minute, he's seeing her have this conversation. He's watching the newscaster eviscerate her, right, on the TV. He has this moment of, you can see it's not just compassion, it's, wow, I've really put you in a really horrible situation, haven't I?
Yeah. And also, I don't belong here.
Oh, no, exactly.
Like,
right.
All his stuff is piled up in the corner. Like, there's been a breakup.
Right.
And he's there to get his stuff. That sort of, that same thing of like, oh, so this is awkward.
It's about to get more awkward.
That's right. So Tony actually then pulls a chair up and sits down. And then to answer the question, will Tony Stark be there? He says, will I? And Pepper says, no, he will not. Bye. And she says bye, which I always find interesting too, because most movie characters do not say bye or goodbye when they're on the phone.
No, it's just click
Yeah, it's like it's one of those things where once you become aware of it, it's that glass shattering thing from How I Met Your Mother. You'll notice that every time a character does, they just hang up. They don't say bye. They don't say later. They don't say anything. They just they finish the conversation. Click, to save screen time. They just hang up.
Burt is special.
So that's right. Burt warrants a bye.
Yeah.
So then Tony says, "I would like to be. Got a minute?" Pepper says, "No." Tony's like, "Come on, you just got off the phone. You're fine. 30 seconds." Pepper said, and looks at her watch. She goes, 29, 28.
Any of us with spouses or significant others who we've annoyed at one point in our life know the feeling of this.
Yes, we can recognize that, oh, okay.
You're in trouble.
Yeah. Walk very tenderly with what you're about to say. So Tony says, "I was just driving over here and I thought I was coming to basically apologize, but I'm not."
Oh.
Pepper says, "You didn't come here to apologize." And then Tony says, "Look, that goes without saying, and I'm working on that. But I haven't been entirely upfront with you, and I just want to make good." Now, as we're talking about this, the one thing we have not mentioned is sort of the elephant in the room, and that is the piece of kinetic sculpture that is sitting on the desk. So this is something that the set decorator brought in and put on. They thought it'd be interesting, and everyone was like, even Jon Favreau was looking at that's insane. That thing is so distracting. Why would you have that thing? And they thought it was so funny that this ridiculous thing would be on the desk that they decided not only to use it in the movie, but also to put it front and center. And even this is a conversation they had with Gwyneth and Robert, who are just no, we're going to put it between you. We're going to have it right there, center thing. So as they're Tony's trying to have this conversation about apologizing, not apologizing, there's this weird metal thing swinging up around in between the thing. It's a really fascinating piece because it's hard to predict where it's going to go because of the way they have the weights distributed. So it's not like one of those executive desk toys with the marbles where it goes click, clack, back and forth. It's all over the place.
And silent. The thing I like about it is it's silent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know what this is called?
I don't know what it's called.
Oh, it's called the swinging sticks.
Okay.
It is currently, at the time that we're talking about this, it is still available at the glongshop.com. G spelled G-E-E, longshop.com. And they are very happy to let you know the swinging sticks, as seen in Iron Man 2. They're very clear. But it's very cool. It comes in a variety of sizes, comes in a variety of colors, looks really cool. It's cool except for its price.
Oh, really? And how much would you pay to have your desk look like Pepper Potts's?
If you would like one about the size of the one that's on that desk, it'll set you back about $289.
Ooh, okay. Wow. So definitely the capital E executive desk toy.
Oh, this is the top level. This is the corporate suite. I think that's just kind of funny. Well, one is that, okay, it's a real thing. I mean, somebody obviously that brought people saw this. And I think this is cool that you found something that is visually, in this case, I'm not saying it's annoying as a piece of art. In this case, it's annoying. Yeah, it doesn't make a sound.
When it's between two faces.
Yes, it actually serves a kind of it's a third character in this conversation, which I think is kind of neat. But yeah, it's a real thing. It's you can still buy it today. Okay,
Tony
comments.
lets it go on. Oh, go ahead. Tony lets it go on for a while, then finally says, "Can I move this? This is crazy. It's like a Ferris wheel going. Yeah. I'm trying to get some," and then I just love Gwen's delivery that she just goes, "No." He wants to move it out of the way, and she's like, "No, I like it just where it is."
Well, and that's the end of the minute, pretty much.
Yeah, that's it. It comes to an end.
Just a couple things to point. When he comes in, we've talked about the back room of the office. There's two things that have bugged me about this. Okay, so one, the sheet. The second thing is, and I'm not seeing things, but I want you to take real notice during the scene what's in the windows behind her. Which right now it's a bunch of indescript, looks like 3-4 story office buildings.
Right.
But also notice there's some lilies in a vase. There's a sort of a white glass globe thing. But take a look at the monitor. When he first comes in, and you see Pepper from the Tony Stark side of this. The monitor is this single black monitor, LCD monitor on a stand. When the camera switches to her point of view, it's a different monitor.
Oh.
And the monitor isn't just a monitor. It actually has speakers on the sides of the monitor that don't exist when you see it from the other shot, which I find really interesting. Here, I'm going to tell you a spoiler. When we get to the next minute, there's a third monitor.
Wow. Yeah, because I was trying to figure out what that monitor was, and I couldn't, because monitors are really, really hard to figure out for a profession like ours.
Oh, yeah. No.
They're black and square. That's
but you can absolutely see there is a difference in the monitor. Like, it changes. So with all of this going on, I really wonder what was the original footage of this scene? And because there's so much that's going on here, and we'll talk about more about it in the next minute. So spoiler, tease for our next one.
So as we mentioned, the art in her room, the Elger Esser print that's on there, the world is looking for the next Elger Esser, and it could be you. And you can do that by joining Instagram. Instagram, the social network that's designed for beautiful pictures. The next Elger Esser or Ansel Adams will probably be discovered on Instagram. It could be you. And while you're there, we're there too. Who will not be the next Elger Esser or Ansel Adams? We just like putting up really cool art about the podcast that we do. But we do work really hard on it. So we would appreciate it if you would give us a like, give us a follow, and so the stuff we're doing. The team actually does this, take their job very, very, very seriously.
Yes, they do.
They did a presentation for us about the stuff they were doing, and it was pretty impressive, all the stuff they're doing. And when I say team, I think it's probably just one guy.
Way to go.
Way to go. Yeah. Our art team is par excellence when it comes in the world of podcasting, and you should give them some love. So the mystery of the strawberries continues as we go into the night, because they're the other character in the room that no one's talking about. And we're going to find out why that's important here when we get into minute 79. So you do not want to miss it. Enough said.
Bye.